These past few years have been the hardest years of my life by far. And I wanted to take you a bit on that journey, what's been going on, mainly because I've also found it to be super helpful seeing other people's journeys. It's actually been really helpful for me to work out what's been going on with my own health journey. So being able to see what symptoms people had and what they discovered about the root causes of that has enabled me to work on my own treatment for my health. So that's the main purpose behind this video, just to share for those of you out there that might be resonating with some of the things I'm talking about. Maybe you can get help a bit earlier than I did, but unfortunately didn't know about these things. So I just want to share, hopefully this will help some people out there. So basically it all kicked off in 2020. Me and my wife were in Italy. We'd got stuck in the UK for a little bit. We wanted to go traveling, but we couldn't because of COVID and the whole pandemic situation. And so we had been stuck in the UK, but we eventually got a bit fed up and decided we wanted to just go off to Europe and do a bit of a working holiday. So we went to France for a bit. We were there for about 3 weeks, doing some work and then visiting around France for a bit. And we went to Bordeaux, places like that. And then we went on to Italy. We wanted to go around the Tuscany area. I wanted to go into like Siena and Florence and Pisa, places like this, where I'd actually already been, but my wife hadn't been. But we wanted to go there and have a bit of fun. And the same kind of thing, we were working on like a vineyard and had some olive trees on it and some horses. My wife was looking after the horses and I was doing like the vineyard stuff. And then we wanted to go and visit all these really lovely places, but ended up being in lockdown, so we couldn't really go anywhere, which is a bit of a bummer. But at least the place we were staying was still really, really nice. But while we were there, I just completely crashed physically. My energy just completely went and I didn't have the energy to anything. I was exhausted, didn't know what was going on really. So I had to then go on this journey of trying to figure out what it was. I kind of immediately got online, downloaded some different books about it, and the book that mainly helped me was a book by Dr. Myhill. She's a well-known kind of expert in the UK on chronic fatigue syndrome. So I was basically searching in like Google, like absolutely exhausted, sleeping but unable to get any refreshing sleep. And her book came up on Kindle, so I downloaded it, and that was super helpful for me. And looking back, I've realised from what I've learned from her book that actually all this started for me like a long time ago. It wasn't just 2020 that was where, the peak came and that was the crash, but it actually been a long time leading up to that. So it all goes back even to like 15 years old. So I've been at school, but really struggling to get out of bed each day, struggling to get into school, not anything necessarily to do with not liking school, although I didn't particularly like school, but just really tired. I would sleep for like 10 hours a day, and on weekend it'd be even longer than that, but I would still feel absolutely shattered when I woke up. It didn't seem to matter how long I slept. I just couldn't get refreshed at all. I was just always really, really tired. And kind of some of my friends used to laugh that I used to spend the whole time like as horizontal as possible. Like if there was a sofa, I'd be completely slouched in it. And it kind of became a bit of a joke. But actually, in hindsight, I was just really exhausted. And any time I could get to rest, I would be. But I was still mostly living a normal life, like playing football and stuff like that. But yeah, my sleep was really bad. But at that time, I wasn't really aware of how bad. When I got to like 18, I was in sixth form and I didn't have many lessons. So I was in school even less than before. Only like maybe 10 hours a week or something. And the rest of the time, I was just so exhausted. I was at home, mainly sleeping, resting in bed. Eventually went to the doctor. And the doctor just like completely fobbed me off basically and said like, oh, you're just growing, you'll get out of it, don't worry about it. And in hindsight, like again, I really wished I'd pushed a bit harder and said that was BS. And I wish I'd just gone and seen a different GP. and got a different opinion, got a second opinion. But back then, I kind of believed the doctors knew exactly what they're talking about and always knew what they were doing. And I didn't really trust the intuition that I had that wasn't right. So I just carried on for a few more years. It didn't change at all. It got worse, if anything. But I went to another doctor and tried to get them to look at certain things. Like I'd get them to look at vitamin D. What did they think was the problem with that? Could they test it? And so they tested it, and they saw the levels were low. So then I got supplements for that. Tested it, and it'd gone back up, but that didn't sort it out either. I tried different diets and all sorts of stuff. Looked at like whether I was anemic, and none of this made any difference or showed anything up. My bloods mostly kept coming back fine, and so they kept telling me there was nothing wrong with me. And this went on for like years and years and years. Eventually, I was like in a full-time job. This was in like 2014, something like that. I was working full-time, but I was just absolutely shattered, struggling to get through the week. My boss would be like showing me things on the computer that I needed to be able to do. And I was struggling like not to fall asleep. I was like constantly yawning. I actually really liked the job. The job was really cool. But it was a real struggle to have the energy to do it properly. And so my performance was struggling a lot too. Eventually, after like 2.5 years of really struggling to make it through the week, basically getting through to the weekend just to be able to get some rest so that I could go again the next week, struggling to get through to holidays so that I could have a rest and some time off. And then all of that feeling like it was going way too quickly, because then I was just straight back into work, which I know is a common thing for a lot of people, which is sad and a shame that we all feel like that a lot of the time. But it was to a whole new level for me. Like it was a more physical exhaustion, like not just a burnout feeling in terms of like emotionally feeling drained, but like really physically not being able to get the energy I needed to go about my day-to-day life and to perform in work and things like that. So that went on for like 2.5 years, and then eventually I got made redundant, which I was actually at the time really happy about, purely because it allowed me to rest, which sounds really weird, but it's like I never would have allowed myself just to quit anyway. Particularly I've like taken on, a mortgage at that point, bought a house, and we were renovating it. So it was like really bad timing to not have a job. So I never would have allowed myself to quit, but being made redundant and being forced to be off work meant that I could have a bit more of a rest. So I started my own business, started a YouTube channel actually, teaching about songwriting. And I did that for a few years, leading up to 2020 when I had this big crash. So got home, realised once back in the UK that I had chronic fatigue. Had some workshops with Dr. Sarah Myhill where she kind of laid out her protocol, looked at my blood results and things like that. And she gave me this protocol to go on, which I went on for about 18 months. And that managed to get me out of the worst of it. So like at the worst of it, I was like in bed for 4 months straight, pretty much. Anytime I got out of bed to go and get food or anything, like walking down the stairs would just completely make me breathless. Standing up for more than 30 seconds would make me start to get lightheaded and feeling severely fatigued, like I'd done, 2 hours of exercise or something, pushed myself to the absolute limit and couldn't do any more. It was that kind of feeling, but within 30 seconds of standing up, like just stirring like a pot on the stove would make me completely breathless. I had really bad sensitivity to like light and sound, particularly sound was like really bad. If someone was like doing something that like it was just an average volume, like maybe they're like tapping their fork on a plate while they were trying to eat, and it would like be someone almost like hammering on my eardrum. It was so loud. It was just really extreme. So that lasted at its worst for about 4 months, and then I gradually started to get better. This protocol really helped for, say, probably a year, and then it started to like plateau off a bit, and I wasn't really getting any better after that point. So I just started to kind of level off, not replacing the supplements that I was taking, which is the main part of what I was doing, like just focusing on rest a lot, lots of supplements, really focusing on nutrition and all these kind of things. But they helped me to get a lot better. But it kind of had limits to how far it seemed it could take me. So I kind of plateaued and started to level off some of the supplements I was taking, because it was actually really expensive as well. And I wasn't working at the time because I didn't have the energy. So it was all just money that I just didn't really have. It was kind of maybe $350 a month or something I was spending on supplements and things. So it was getting quite a bit. So since it didn't seem to be helping, I just leveled it off. And then when they ran out, I just didn't bother to replace them. Kind of mid-2022, I found out about a community called Primal Trust, led by Dr. Kathleen King. And it was all about like brain retraining, like limbic system and nervous system. So I've been on that journey for about a year now, just helping to use other techniques to kind of calm down my nervous system, to kind of rewire my brain to not perceive threats in the same way it used to. Like when you've been so exhausted and you've had these big crashes, your brain starts to perceive everything as being like a threat, and then it sets off your nervous system into like a fight or flight response. And that had definitely been a big part of my worst symptoms. So did that for quite a while, and that really helped too. But again, I knew it wasn't really the root cause. It was a big part of the illness I felt, but it was like, what's got me to this point? Why is my body responding like this in the first place? What's going on? Yes, it kind of built up over many, many years, but something has caused that to build up. It wasn't because I was like doing too much in my life or anything like that, or not looking after myself. There was something deeper going on. So all this time I was trying to find that out, and everyone I'd kind of worked with had mostly thought that it was just chronic fatigue, but without any known cause at that point. I had some people I worked with that thought it might be like Lyme disease or mold, and we looked into those. And although I think there is some element of those in my health journey and the cause of my health, I don't think it's the main cause. I think they're just a kind of cofactor. So I spent a long time trying to work out what it was, like researching, which thankfully I'm very skilled at, very good at learning how to use the internet to find information. Instagram's actually been incredible for finding people that are able to help in this area. And over the course of 2022, it was about over a year, I was coming across lots of information that started to resonate with me. And I was starting to be able to piece together what I felt the root cause was. And by the end of 2022, going into 2023, I was really sure I knew what the root cause was. So I'm going to share about that in the next video. Otherwise, this video is going to be really long, and I think it'd be better to do it in 2 parts. So I'm going to get to that in the next video. I'll share what the root cause is and what I'm doing now to treat that and work on that problem. I wanted to put all the links in the description below, so if any of this stuff has resonated with you, you can go and look it up and look at these resources, and hopefully they will be helpful to you in some way. So I'm going to put all those links in the description, and in the next video I'm going to talk about the root cause of my illness. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Some of you may have resonated with some of this. I know it can be a really hard thing going through like chronic fatigue, particularly when you don't necessarily know what's caused it. I think finding the root of it is so key. So that's something that I've been working really hard on, and maybe the next video will shed some light on that for some of you too. But it doesn't mean that if you don't have the same root cause as me, that there isn't anything that you can do, or that there's something that can't be learned for you. I think there's still things that can be related between the two. So that's where, again, these resources will hopefully be helpful for you. So have a look at those in the description. I hope that helps. I hope this story's been kind of relevant to you and helped you on your own journey.